Hello everyone. Welcome back to session 3 of this chapter called Reproductive Health. What did we learn in session 2 of this chapter called Reproductive Health? We studied about a very important concept called amniocentesis. Then we studied about population explosion. Then we studied about what are the reasons for the population explosion, what are the methods that we need to implement to control this growing population, right? So what are we going to study in today's session then? This is a very important session, right? Why this session is very important? Because the concept what we are going to study in today's session is a very important method or a concept to control this overgrowing human population. So what are we going to study in today's session then? We are going to study about a very important method to prevent conception called contraceptive methods. Contraceptive methods and the types of contraceptive methods. As I said, the knowledge what you are going to get with this session is also very important. As I said, it's not just passing out your PUC, but the knowledge what you are going to get from learning the concepts of this chapter called reproductive health will be quite useful to you in the coming days, right? Now let us see what is this contraceptive method. What is contraceptive method? Contraceptive methods are also called as birth control methods. They are also called as what? Birth control methods, or they are also called as the spacing methods. From the global point of view, contraception is the only ray of hope to control or to check the growing human population. So as I said, from the global point of view, the contraception is the only ray of hope to check the growing human population. And by using this contraceptive methods, it allows a woman to plan her career and also to maintain a good standard of life. Now let us see what is this conception, what is contraception and contraceptive methods one by one. So what do you mean by contraceptive methods, or what do you mean by conception, right? So let us understand the word called conception. Conception is nothing but pregnancy or becoming pregnant is called conception. So prevention of conception by using contraceptive methods, that is prevention of conception is called contraception, and the methods that are implemented to prevent contraception are called contraceptive methods. So what is conception? That is becoming pregnant, or pregnancy is called conception. Contraception is what? Becoming pregnant. So avoiding pregnancy is called contraception. So the methods that are implemented to avoid contraception is called contraceptive methods, right? Now, in other words, contraceptive methods can also be called as birth control methods, or you can also call them as the spacing methods. The spacing methods, right? Now, you can also define the contraceptive methods as a voluntary or deliberate prevention of pregnancy after the sexual act. So what are contraceptive methods? Contraceptive methods or the birth control methods are the methods which is used voluntarily or deliberately to prevent what? To prevent pregnancy after sexual activity is called the birth control methods or the contraceptive methods or the spacing methods, and it works in one of the three ways. So what is the working principle of these contraceptive methods? It helps in preventing the contact of the sperm with the ovum, right? What is the working principle of these contraceptive methods? First one is it preventing contact between the sperm and the ovum. Second, preventing fertilization. So one very important working principle is prevention of contact between the sperm and the ovum, then preventing fertilization and preventing implantation, preventing the embryo from implantation in the uterus. uterus. Let me repeat, what are contraceptive methods? Prevention of conception is called contraception, and the methods that are implemented to prevent contraception are called contraceptive methods, or it can also be defined as what? It is a voluntary or deliberate prevention of pregnancy after sexual activity. And as I said, it works out in one of the three ways. What is the first way? Preventing the contact between the sperm and the ovum, and preventing fertilization, then preventing the embryo from implantation in the uterus, right. Now, as I said, voluntary prevention of unwanted pregnancy is called contraceptive or contraception or birth control methods. So, what are the contraceptive methods? These are the methods which prevent conception. As I have already said, what is conception and what are contraception, what is contraception and what are contraceptive methods. Now, what are the features of the ideal contraceptives, or what are the characteristics of an ideal contraceptive? This is very, very important points to be noted from examination point of view also. So, what are the characteristics of a contraceptive? They will ask. So, what is it? First one is what? It is user friendly. So, whoever uses the contraceptive method should be quite comfortable while using this contraceptives and easily available. So, particularly this contraceptive methods should be easily available almost in all pharmacy shops or in medical shops, so that the user can easily buy it and use it. So, easily available. Then effective. So, the use of this contraceptive method should be more effective and reversible with no or less side effects. So, it should not have any side effects for the user when they use this contraceptive method. Suppose if at all they come across any side effects, then they are not going to use this contraceptive methods and they cannot avoid unwanted pregnancy, right. And also very important is, it should not interfere with the sexual act or the sexual desire of the user, that is, it should not interfere with the sexual act or sexual desire of the user who is using this contraceptive methods. What are the features of the contraceptives? First, very important is what? User friendly. Second one, easily available. Third, more effective and reversible with no or less side effects. No effects at all, no side effects or less side effects for the user, and should not interfere with the sexual desire or the sexual act of the user. These are the qualities or the characteristic feature of a contraceptive. So, I hope you have understood what is contraceptive methods. It is a voluntary or deliberate prevention of pregnancy during the sexual act, or prevention of conception is called contraception, and the method of controlling the contraception are called contraceptive methods, which should be user friendly, easily available, effective with no or less side effects, and should not interfere with the sexual desire and sexual act of the user. And as I said, what is the working principle of these contraceptive methods? It works in three ways. First one is what? Preventing the contact between the sperm and the ovum, preventing fertilization, and preventing the embryo from implantation into the uterus. Hope you have understood the introductory part of this very important concept called contraceptive methods. Here you can see in the diagram, right? These are the different types of contraceptives, and you need to consult a doctor before using the contraceptive methods on a safer side. Then pregnancy and planning. Planning is very, very important. As I said, if a woman plans for her pregnancy, then definitely because sometimes for her career will be equally important, and also to maintain what? Good standard of life, she needs to plan her pregnancy. So, pregnancy planning also is very, very important for a woman or for the couple. Then consulting the doctor, as I said, they need to consult a doctor before using the contraceptive methods, so that they will not have any side effects when they are using it. Then the instruments, as I said, particularly they need to go to a qualified doctor, or they need to go to a qualified nurse for getting these contraceptive methods inserted. So, right. Now, let us go for the classification of this contraceptive methods. The contraceptive methods are broadly classified into two very important methods. One is called the temporary method, the second one is called the permanent method. In today's session, I will be dealing with the temporary methods, and in the coming session, I will be dealing with the permanent methods. right? Now, what are these temporary methods? Temporary methods, as I said, contraceptive methods are broadly classified into two methods. What are the two methods? One is called the temporary method, the second one is called the permanent method. What are the temporary methods? We can classify the temporary methods into four types. One is called the natural method, the second one is called the barrier method, third one is called the IUDs. IUDs are nothing but intrauterine devices. Then the oral contraceptives, and the permanent method is of two types called vasectomy and tubectomy. Actually, permanent methods can also be called as surgical methods. They can also be called as surgical methods, or you can also use the word called sterilization. Vasectomy is called male sterilization, whereas tubectomy is called female sterilization. As I said, I am going to deal with this very important concept, that is the second method called permanent method, in the coming session. Let me deal with the first very important method of contraceptive method called temporary method, which is broadly classified into how many types? Four types. What are they? Natural method, barrier method, IUDs, and fourth one called oral contraceptives, which I am going to deal one by one in the coming slides, right, in detail. So, natural method is also called as physiological method, which includes what? Periodic abstinence, coitus interruptus, lactational amenorrhea. Periodic abstinence is also called as rhythm method. This is also called as rhythm method, and coitus interruptus is also called as withdrawal method or pull-out method. Pull-out method, and the last one is called lactational amenorrhea. I will repeat. Contraceptive methods are broadly classified into two types, temporary method and permanent method. Temporary method are of four types. What are they? Natural method, barrier method, IUDs, and oral contraceptives. Natural method is also called as what? Physiological method. Physiological method, which includes four. What are they? Periodic abstinence. Periodic abstinence is also called as what? Rhythm method. And coitus interruptus is called as what? Withdrawal method or pull-out method. And the third one is called lactational amenorrhea. Barrier method includes condoms, diaphragms, cervical caps, and valves. Then intrauterine devices includes the copper T and the lips loop, progesterone, LNG-20. Then oral contraceptives, that is the oral pills like Saheli. So, this is the classification, and as I said, the permanent method is broadly classified into two types, namely vasectomy and tubectomy. As I said, permanent method can also be called as what? Surgical method, or it is also called as sterilization, where vasectomy is called male sterilization and tubectomy is called female sterilization, where here the male is sterilized and here the female is sterilized, right? Vasectomy and tubectomy. As I said, this is the general classification of the contraceptive methods, which I am going to explain one by one in the coming slides. Hope you have understood this general classification of contraceptive methods. What is contraception, what are contraceptive methods, and the different types of contraceptive methods, particularly the temporary method, which is divided into four types. Moving on to the, as I said, the types of contraceptive methods. As I said, these are the different types of contraceptive methods, namely natural, or it is also called as traditional method. Then periodic abstinence is called physiological method also, and barrier methods, then IUDs, which is called intrauterine devices, oral contraceptives like the pills, then one more called injectables and implants, and surgical methods. Here you can see the condom, then you can see the intrauterine device like the copper T, then the injection, female condom, then you can see the spermicides, coitus interruptus, calendar method. As I said, periodic abstinence is called calendar method or rhythm method, emergency pills, contraception, vaginal dash, then BC implant, oral contraception, vaginal ring, the diaphragm, the patch, and the surgical sterilization, that is cutting the a part of vas deferens is cut and tied, and in male, and whereas in case of female a part of the fallopian tube is cut and tied. So, that is the surgical sterilization. So, these are the different types of contraceptive methods. Now, let us study one by one. Moving on to the first type called the natural or traditional method, which includes three very important types. One is called periodic abstinence, second one is called coitus interruptus, and the third one is called lactational amenorrhea. Periodic abstinence is also called as rhythm method, or as I said, it is also called calendar method. These are all the methods which require no devices. So, here we no need of any device, no devices. In this method, no devices can be used. Now, let us study one by one. Periodic abstinence. Particularly application of this method should have the knowledge, is based on the knowledge of the menstrual cycle. Hope you have studied in human reproduction what is menstrual cycle, what are the phases of menstrual cycle, and hope you remember one very important phase of menstrual cycle called the ovulatory phase, which takes place on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. And you have studied in that chapter also in menstrual cycle that the average duration of a menstruation or a menstrual cycle lasts for 28 to 29 days. Hope you have understood in that chapter, right? Now, what is this periodic abstinence? As I said, this is a method which is based on the knowledge of the menstrual cycle, where the menstrual cycle is divided into 4 phases. The first phase is called the bleeding phase, which lasts for 1 to 5 days. The next is called the safe period. Next is called the safe period, that is 6th to 10th day is called the safe period. Third one is called unsafe period, that is from 11th to 20th day is called the unsafe period, and fourth is called the safe period, which is from 21st to 28 days. This is very important for us to know about this periodic abstinence. So, as I said, periodic abstinence, the technique what is applied in this periodic abstinence is based on the knowledge of menstrual cycle, where the menstrual cycle is divided into 4 phases here, that is the bleeding phase is from 1 to 5 day, safe period is from 6 to 10th day, unsafe period is from 11 to 20th day, and safe period is from 21 to 28 day. You may wonder why I have written all this. As I said, you can see this is the safe period and this is the safe period. Why this is called as unsafe period? Because a very important event takes place, that is called on the 14th day, that is called ovulation. This is called the fertile period. This is called the fertile period, or it is also called unsafe period. So, if the couple abstain from sex during this unsafe period, they can prevent fertilization or they can prevent unwanted pregnancy. As I said, what is periodic abstinence? Abstaining from the sexual act during this unsafe period is called periodic abstinence. So, if the couple keep away from themselves on this unsafe period from 11th to 20th day, definitely they can avoid what? Fertilization, and they can avoid what? Unwanted pregnancy. That is what it is meant by periodic abstinence. Next, coitus interruptus. Hope you have understood what is periodic abstinence. Periodic abstinence is what? Abstaining from the sexual act during the unsafe period, that is on the 14th day. As I said, since ovulation takes place on the 14th day, so on that particular duration 11 to 20th day, if the couple abstain from sexual act, then definitely they are going to avoid the unwanted pregnancy or they can avoid fertilization. Now, moving on to the second type. What is coitus interruptus or withdrawal method? Here a man withdraws his penis before ejaculation from the women's genitalia is called coitus interruptus, or it is also called withdrawal method. I repeat, here a man withdraws his external genitalia, that is the penis, before ejaculation from the women's external genitalia, that is from women's vagina, is called coitus interruptus. What is the working principle of this method? It prevents what? It prevents the entry of the sperm. Entry of sperm. This prevents what? This prevents fertilization. and this prevents what? Entry of sperm. Before ejaculation only, if the penis is removed, definitely there will be no entry of the sperms into the uterus. So that method is called coitus interruptus, or it is otherwise called withdrawal method. What is coitus interruptus or withdrawal method? Here a man withdraws his penis before ejaculation from the women's genitalia is called coitus interruptus or withdrawal method. And what is the working principle of this method? It prevents the entry of the sperm. Hope you have understood the first one and the second one. Moving on to the third one called lactational amenorrhea. Breastfeeding during the early months of delivery, definitely she will not have her menstruation. So in the early months of delivery, when she is breastfeeding the young one, then definitely she will not have her menstrual cycle, and that is a safe period for the sexual act. But after the onset of the menstrual cycle, then it is not a safe period. So once till the time she is breastfeeding, she will not have her menstrual cycle. So in that case, sexual act can be done in that particular time, and she can avoid what? Fertilization, or she can avoid unwanted pregnancy. So these three are the very important natural methods, or otherwise called traditional methods. So what are they? The periodic abstinence, as I said, which is a very as I already explained about the calendar method, that is what? One is called the bleeding period. Bleeding period is first 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 days, right? Next, what is the second period? Which is called safe period. Safe period is, this is from 1 to 5, and safe period is from 6 to 10, and unsafe period is from 11 to 20th. Then fourth, that is again the safe period, is from 21 to 28 days. So this is called as the calendar method. Here you can see this is called as calendar method. So if the sexual act is avoided between 11 to 20th days, or if the couple abstain from the sexual act during this unsafe period, definitely they can prevent fertilization or unwanted pregnancy. So all these three are the very important traditional or natural method where no devices are utilized. Moving on to the next called barrier method. These are nothing but mechanical obstructions that are used to prevent conception, is called barrier methods. So what are barrier methods? Barrier methods are nothing but the mechanical barriers that are implemented to avoid the unwanted pregnancy is called barrier method, like the use of condoms, diaphragms, cervical caps and walls. You can see in the picture here, right? So particularly we come across a very important condom called Nirod, a popular brand of condom for males used as contraceptive. And this not only use of condoms not only prevents contraception, also prevents the male from getting contracted with the sexually transmitted diseases, which I am going to explain in the coming sessions. What are sexually transmitted diseases? Sexually transmitted diseases are the diseases which is spreads or transmits from sexual intercourse. So particularly if a male uses this condom called Nirod, definitely he can avoid what? Getting that is, he can avoid contraception as well as what? It also from contracting with the sexually transmitted diseases. So what are barrier methods? Barrier methods are nothing but the mechanical barriers that are used to prevent conception, like the use of condoms, use of diaphragms, cervical caps and holds, which I am going to explain one by one in the coming slide. Hope you have understood what is natural method and what are barrier methods. What do you mean by barrier? That which prevents the contact between the sperm and the ovum. So the barriers which will prevent the contacting of the sperm with the ovum, and they are called as the barrier method, like the use of condoms, diaphragm, cervical caps and holds. Diaphragm is nothing but a dome shaped disc which is used to cover the uterus. So this also will prevent what? This will prevent the fertilization or prevent the contact between the sperm and the ovum. Cervical caps are nothing but miniature diaphragms which are also used to prevent the contact between the sperm and the ovum. So those are called as barrier methods. Then moving on to intrauterine devices. So what are these? These are the devices which are used, devices like the loops or devices like the rings or devices like the spirals made up of either plastic or copper or stainless steel, and those should be inserted, and those devices, as I said, the very word itself will tell you, intrauterine devices. So these are the devices either in the form of loop or either in the form of ring or either in the form of spiral, made up of what? Made up of either plastic or made up of copper or stainless steel. So these are the stainless steel. These are the devices. These are called intrauterine devices which need to be inserted into the female particularly by expert doctors or expert nurses into the uterus through the vagina, right? So definitely she has to go to an expert doctor or an expert nurse for the insertion of these devices, which are either in the form of loops or in the form of rings or in the form of spiral. I'll show it to you all in the coming slide, the pictures of this, that is the loops, rings and spirals. So these are nothing but called what? Female contraceptives. Condom is a male contraceptive, and these intrauterine devices are mostly the female contraceptive, which can also act as barriers which obstruct the contact of the sperm with the ovum. So as I said, these are either made up of, these are in the form of loops, or they are in the form of rings, or they are in the form of spirals made up of either plastic or copper or stainless steel, which need to be inserted in the uterus of the female by an expert doctor or an expert nurse. Here you can see the copper T. Right. This is also a very important contraceptive method to prevent unwanted or to prevent fertilization or prevent unwanted pregnancy. Now, let us study the types of intrauterine devices. One is called the non-medicated IUDs. First one is called, what is the classification of intrauterine devices? It has been broadly classified into non-medicated IUDs. Second one is called copper releasing IUDs. Third one is called hormone releasing IUDs. And also we are going to study about the advantage or the working principle of IUDs. Moving on to the first one, non-medicated IUDs. What do you mean by non-medicated IUDs? When these IUDs, when they are used, particularly this is going to phagocyte the sperms that enter. Phagocyte the sperms which enter. So when such devices are used, so what is the very important function of this non-medicated IUD, like the lips loop? They are going to phagocyte the sperms. What do you mean by phagocytosis? Killing the sperms. So that is one very important use of non-medicated IUDs. Next, copper releasing IUDs. What are these copper releasing IUDs? Will release what? Copper. And this copper which is released through this copper releasing IUDs like copper T, multi-load 375, copper T, copper 7. So this copper will hinder the motility of the sperms. Motility of the sperms. So the sperms, as you know, once the sperm's motility is lost, then they will be non-functional. So copper releasing IUDs will release copper, which will affect the motility of the sperms. Very important application or use of this IUDs is what? It prevents the contact of the sperm with the ovum, right? And particularly, and also it makes the cervix of the female hostile for the sperms. So by use of copper T, it also hinders the motility of the sperm, and also not only that, it also makes the cervix of the female hostile for the sperm. So obviously the sperms cannot enter the uterus for fertilization. That is the working principle of this copper releasing IUDs. Next, hormone releasing IUDs like the progesterone and LNG. Even this is also going to make the sperm non-functional. Sperm non-functional. So that is all about the advantage or the working principle of IUDs. So as I said, they are nothing but what? Devices the devices either in the form of a loop or either in the form of a ring or either in the form of spiral, and which might be made up of plastic or which might be made up of copper or even the stainless steel, right. And here you can see the different types of intrauterine devices. So, these are the different types of intrauterine devices which are used as the contraceptive methods. Hope you have understood what are the types of intrauterine devices, that is non-medicated, copper releasing IUDs, hormone releasing IUDs, and the advantage of the working principle of IUDs. Moving on to the next type called oral contraceptives. So far we studied about the types of temporary methods like the natural method, then the barrier method, then the IUDs. Moving on to the last but one contraceptive temporary method called oral contraceptive. It is nothing but called oral pills. They are called as oral pills. What are these? These are the hormone containing contraceptive pills taken orally by the females once in a week. Once in a week. So, if this oral pills are taken once in a week, then definitely it is going to prevent fertilization and prevent unwanted pregnancy. As I said, all these are the contraceptive methods which are used to prevent conception, right. Now, what are these oral contraceptives? These are the hormone containing contraceptive pills taken orally by the females. And what is the composition of this oral pills? The composition of this oral pills is either progestogen or estrogen combination. So, you know, these are the hormones, right? Progestogen and estrogen combination. And one such very important oral contraceptive is called Saheli, a very important and which is quite effective in use. Particularly this Saheli is a oral pill which is designed or developed by CDRI. CDRI is nothing but Central Drug Research Institute at Lucknow developed this Saheli. So, what is Saheli? Saheli is nothing but a oral contraceptive. It can be taken as a pill. So, it is more effective also and less side effects. So, there are no side effects by using this oral pill called Saheli. Sometimes when we take some medicines, it may have some side effects, but this oral pill called Saheli will have no effect or less side effect, but the functioning of this Saheli is more effective and it has to be taken once a week. And definitely this Saheli, the use of this oral pill called Saheli will prevent conception or avoid fertilization or avoid unwanted pregnancy. So, what is it? It is a composition of the hormone called combination of progestogen and estrogen, and one such example is what? Saheli. Here you can see that is the pills. They are nothing but called oral pills, right. Hope you have understood all the concepts what I have explained in today's session about the contraceptive methods. The contraceptive methods like the temporary method, and temporary method was broadly classified into natural, or it is also called as what? Physiological method. And what were the three very important natural methods? Like what is called periodic abstinence, second one was called coitus interruptus, third one was called lactational amenorrhea. Then the second method was called as what? Barrier method, like the use of condoms, like the use of diaphragms, cervical caps and balls. And the third method was the IUDs, the intrauterine devices like the lips loop or progestocert and LNG-20. Then moving on to the fourth type called oral contraceptive, like the pill what we have come across, the oral pill called Saheli, which was designed by CDRI. And in the coming session we are going to deal with the permanent method, namely the vasectomy and tubectomy. As I said, the permanent method, it is also called as surgical method, or it is also called sterilization method, which includes two, that is vasectomy called male sterilization and tubectomy called female sterilization. Hope you have understood all the concepts what I have explained in this very important session called particularly about the contraceptive methods. So, what am I going to teach in the coming session? That is, in the coming session I will be dealing with the surgical methods. As I said, it is also called as what? Sterilization, namely the tubectomy and vasectomy. And also we are going to study about a very important concept called medical termination of pregnancy or MTP. That is, it is nothing but removal of the fetus before it attains full term is called what? It is called medical termination of pregnancy, which was legalized in 1971 and it is banned actually in order to actually this is used as an exploitation for women. So in case of that is why it was legalized in 1971. Only the authorized doctors are allowed to go for this, do this medical termination of pregnancy, or what we call it as MTP, right. Then we are going to study about the conditions that are required to advise MTP, which is a safer period. As I said, particularly for MTP, the safer period is the trimester, that is the 12 weeks of pregnancy. All this I am going to explain in the coming session. Hope you have understood all the concepts what I have explained in today's session, and I will be dealing with the remaining part of these concepts of this chapter called reproductive health. Until then, goodbye, have a nice day. Thank you.